that clip, and if you could, yeah, that might be real ill.
So, what up to my Substack peeps? You know who it is. It's Dr. Evans here with the homie, man, hometown
Mhm.
hero, but also, good friend, great journalist, phenomenal voice in the culture, Dometi Pongo. And I'm thankful that he's joined me today to sort of, really go through this magnificent event that was the BET Awards, but also to contextualize, some of the corporate media tactics and some of the like kind of business behind what this event means, and even thinking about the implications of how BET has sort of evolved and how it showcases Black voices, Black culture, and kind of going forward, what does this show mean? Especially in an era where we're seeing a lot of uncertainty, things that Black culture has kept sacred, or even things that Black folks have considered like almost like their right has been taken away during this
Mhm.
period of Trump Part Two. And I think someone who was actually there. I think he's a
Mhm.
is a great source of information to sort of get the lay of the land of what it felt like to be at that event, but then also to sort of place it within this larger conversation
Yeah.
that I'm trying to have. So first off, welcome. Thank you for giving me your
Thank
time
you.
today. you
No, no,
know.
no. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having the conversation. And yeah, man, you said a lot just even in the intro because there was the thought last year that that was going to be the last BET Awards.
Mm,
That was the rumor mill. There were a lot of mergers going on, and just for a little context, Paramount merged, and now you have Trump leaning conservatives running
yeah,
CBS News, which is part of the Paramount umbrella.
yeah,
I was impacted, and teams that I worked with were impacted as MTV. A lot of roles
yeah.
over at the MTV side got let go. But yeah, last year there was a thought that that was going to be the last BET award, and coming around to this year being there, the production quality was through the roof. It was executed very well. Louis Carr, who is now the president of BET, who is actually from Chicago as well,
Oh,
um, has always, he used to be the president of sales. He was always adept at selling and marketing these different moments and cultural moments. If you notice in this award show, you always have
mm-hmm.
segments brought to you by Hyundai, brought to you by
Yep.
Sprite. But this year, I felt like almost every sentence was sold. It was like, and we just want to thank Lauren Hill, sponsored by for
Yeah,
the.
yeah,
And so, and that commerce is important, right? Because we don't want our culture commoditized and commercialized in this way, but it has to pay for itself.
oh yeah.
So when I see that, I see jobs, I see staffers getting paid, I see a lot of talented folks getting what they need to continue doing this creative work. And this was actually the highest rated BET award since like 2019, I believe they said. And I'll
Yeah,
end on this note
yeah.
before as we continue.
2.6 million, I think, somewhere in
2.6
there.
million. Yep.
Yeah.
And even having Drewski host was a nod to the fact that media has changed. Our stars look different. They're content creators, they're
Mm,
social media creators, they're comedians. Go. I think Kevin Hart hosted last year. So you got
yep.
somebody who came through the movie ecosystem all the way to a content creator who is now the host.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something very interesting that happened. There was a moment, it was funny with Kiki Palmer. And she was like, see, that's
Oh
the problem right
yeah.
there. You got this content creator. But that's a real conversation. And what I love about that moment is because I sit on that side of the argument as well, where that people have been trained to do this thing. What I love about Drewski is you see him, you see the work being put in. He learned how
Mm,
to read the teleprompter. His skits have gone from stuff just done on the cell phone to full blown out productions. You learn
yep.
production, and so
Yep.
he is not just a content creator. And I say just because sometimes content creators use it as a pejorative. He is also an executive producer, a
Oh
showrunner.
yeah.
And all of those skills come to bear when it's time to do something like host the BET Awards. So I wouldn't even put him in that category of frivolous content creators that lucked up on an opportunity. He deserves
Mm.
this, and he showed up. the way he was supposed to show up. So, but I'll stop it there as far as my
No, no, no.
yeah
I actually was starting there because I think, especially in the context of my research, and I've been doing this work thinking about influencer culture and creator culture and clout and how it shows up
yeah
in spaces. I think this was like a perfect time to see that bridge between legacy media and social media entertainment, sort of where we, I think, at one point said, hey, that's this thing that's happening over here. You're internet famous. And
right
now I don't know if we could, everybody's on the internet all day, every day. And with the way our mobile phones give us so much access on the go, context is different, and there's a context collapse. There's no appointment television the same way it
oh
was, right? And so I think even with that phrase that's attached to this show, culture's biggest night, as someone who was there, um, what were you sort of seeing on the ground floor in terms of like what that phrase means in terms of how people are actually
mm,
taking the actual moment and sharing it, or even the fact that this show, it lives on. I want to say that Kiki Palmer moment was one of the more viral moments that I've seen,
yeah
like broken up and placed in so many different arenas. And I think culture now is almost like, I hate to make this euphemism to the drug game, but it's like you could buy a key and break it down to a nick, and it's like that's kind of what I see, programming as, is
yeah
like, all right, we have these long form, almost like similar to what Kai Cenat does with a live stream, but then there's going
yeah
to be these smaller clips that are going to circulate and continue to drive narrative around a show like the BET Awards. But I guess,
yeah.
what does it mean for culture's biggest night? How did it feel kind of being on the ground floor watching people and how they were interacting?
Yeah, a couple things. It's funny because how we consume these days, someone could watch several clips and say, "Oh, I watched the awards. It was good." Like, if you
Yeah.
watched 5 clips of something, you'll say you watched the thing. Like I watched the Joe Budden podcast. I've never sat down and watched 3 hours on
Yep.
YouTube, but
Yep.
I've watched the best 8 clips from an episode, and I've essentially
Yeah.
watched the podcast. I think that's the
Basically.
same thing with the show and with Coach and with that Kiki Palmer moment. I think she, because I don't know if you remember this, that moment was a bridge between a previous moment on the Vogue red carpet. There was an influencer named Jake Shane and a young black woman, I can't remember her name.
Hmm.
But they had these cringe-worthy moments on the red carpet where they were obviously just plucked from TikTok. And I interviewed Jake Shane before. He's a delightful kid, but
Hmm.
uh, TikTok does not a host make. And so he was like on the
Mm.
red carpet, and they had these really cringeworthy moments, and you can pull them up with Chris Jenner, and she was like, "How did you guys get this job?" She actually asked him that question. Uh, Damson Idris, they talked about some girl exposed him she was like, "Well, we were talking in the DMs, and like on the carpet they had like an awkward moment, and then she went and started talking about this private DM moment on air,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
different things that you just don't do." And so when Kiki Palmer said, "See, that's the problem," da da da. I don't think she was even. She made Drewski was the joke, but
Yes.
it was talking about all of that, all of these
Oh
moments with
yeah.
people who didn't deserve to be on the car. And then when she took over the show, you saw the difference
Oh
between
yeah.
her delivery, her skill set, and somebody who was doing this for the first time, who also was doing a good job. But
Yeah.
okay, this is what good and great looks like, right? So when I think
For
about
sure.
culture, moments with Kiki Palmer, that's culture, right? So she has a thing
Mm.
on the post. She's paying attention to these conversations that are happening around journalism, internet content creation, and she sits at that nexus, right? She has a podcast. She's an actress. She's a producer.
Yep.
She does all of the things, but she
Child
is
star too, that did not.
child star.
you know,
You hear
she's
me?
read a teleprompter for a long time.
You hear me?
Like,
And she's had to navigate every iteration of the game and what it means to be in this culture. And it's famous to different people for different things. So, what is culture and what is quote unquote fame? What is the
mm,
difference between moments that resonate online and how they translate in real life? For example, I had a clip that went, I call it micro viral, like viral amongst my followers, which is like
mm.
not a lot of views in everybody, but this is the one thing Instagram decided to show all of my followers. Was this clip of me saying that don't please don't make Spitting at the song of the summer. because because I saw it happening. Like I was like, okay,
Oh, it's
this
happening.
it is. It's here. And so I saw it right before it's about to become song of the summer. And I made a joke about it because I saw these dudes posting videos and they really love the song. And I was like, it's elementary, it sounds like a lullaby. Like, I'm not even
Oh
talking about
yeah.
the message of it. I just didn't like the sonics of it. Uh, but I also know it's catchy, get stuck in your head, right? So
Yes.
when you're out and about, you're like, okay, let's see how does this play? What does culture really think about this song? How much of this is internet seed planting
Hmm.
and what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean,
Manipulation. Like, when they be making
yeah,
single pop.
yeah,
So I'm sitting in the audience and Young Miami goes on to present an award. And as soon as she gets on stage, the whole room, well, my skin in
yeah.
it, the whole auditorium. And I got a video of it, the whole auditorium, before she could even finish what she said was singing the song. And I was like, that's culture. That's something
Yeah.
that like you don't capture on the internet. You feel that in the room. So you asked like what it was like. It was moments like that where you felt it in the room, like, oh, that matters. When Lauren Hill got the tribute, it was a nod to the fact that like, yo, Queen Latifah matters. While everybody's complaining about Spin That, Rhapsody
Mm,
dropped a new record and she did the tribute to Queen Latifah. She's a contemporary
yes.
female artist that
Hmm.
is talking about what hip hop purists say the culture should be talking about. So that
Yep.
was platformed as well. So as many like negative messages we say that BET and all that puts out there, I do feel like it gets eclipsed. I feel like those conversations eclipse conversations about the honoring of legends,
Mm,
the substantive dialogue. Sometimes the only thing missing from the award show this year was usually there's always a clear political message.
yeah.
Vote something, even when it's vague and it's nonpartisan, there's usually something that tells you get out in your community and get active. And we didn't see that this year. That was the only
Yeah.
my only critique for the award show.
Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback that shortly, I think, the idea of subjectivity and even the idea of freedom of expression is as being very much, when we see a white man like Jimmy Kimmel getting silenced for saying and
Yep.
doing different things, we can only imagine like how that shows up when a room full of black folk is
Yep.
uh, the opportunity to do and say what they want. It's like no, 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 no. We're still footing the bill for that, and you know if we're operating in someone else's house, they're gonna pay attention to how we keep the room. And so
Well
think
said.
you point out something that's very saying I think clear to those of us who work in and around an industry like entertainment, but I don't know if those who are just a casual viewer understand how much goes into the red tape that exists in putting that type of event together. I wanted to get back to Drewski though, because I think
Oh yeah.
he kind of exemplifies like this bridge in between. Like, I think he's someone who grew up understanding legacy media, understanding award shows, understanding the gravity of what that host role meant.
Yes.
But then also like having actually built his career off of this new technology, off of formats that are unconventional in terms of what we
Yeah.
know a television star or a movie star to sort of be, or even a comedian. Like,
Even
it's not
yeah.
like he gets on stage and does stand up. We
Right,
know
right,
him
right,
for
right.
we know him as a comedian, but it's really due to like skits. And I think
Yeah.
what was interesting too is he found a way to kind of take what he does online and then almost like reproduce it in the award
In
space.
the
Like,
award show. And imagine, like,
yeah,
think about how the how ingenious that is that you've created so many franchises that they serve as their own segments on the
right.
award show. Now you got the could have been record segment. Now you got the
Yes,
it's like the church segment to open the show. Like his
yes,
skits are their own in living color. You know what I'm
right.
saying? And I even love that moment when he had Martin on the stage. and it wasn't like a standing ovation in the room. And he said, are y'all serious?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the room eventually stood up and kind of what he's like, yo, I don't exist without Martin. The
That's real.
characters, like, and then I start thinking
Real.
about, oh snap, white Bob from accounting when he does the white face
Yep.
thing, and then Juicy did
Jerome
Jerome,
and
Romy, Ro-
Shanae and
all of the characters, like that was a sketch show essentially. And so like
hmm
him nodding to that, like you bring up such a good point that he's you. And I'm thinking about this for the first time. He is uniquely positioned in the way that there's this respect for traditional media because he's a young millennial or older Gen Z, I guess,
something like that. Yeah.
something like that, where he's still grew up on Martin
hmm
and has a reverence for the opportunity, while at the same time understanding that he's charting his own lane in this
Yep.
new ecosystem, doing this thing his own way. And I think that that's refreshing because some younger people don't do the knowledge. And so I sound like an old head, but some of these young kids don't do the knowledge. And so they might not understand that he's a branch off of the Martin Lawrence tree. And,
Yeah.
the fact that he understands that and can articulate that and cares about the moment, uh, it allows this legacy to last longer because we got to the point where like for younger generation, MTV doesn't mean what it meant for
No.
us. And
No.
so it doesn't, the only way you keep that going is if you have somebody as a bridge to say, yo, this is what this was. This is where we're going, but this matters and we are because of this. You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
that, that is still important. And I think the BET Awards did well to kind of to do that. Like I think they ensured they cemented the idea that okay, this is going to be around for another several years.
That's the tough part though, is I feel like often there's a situation where we want to stay culturally relevant, but the algorithm often keeps us in our own little cottages. And I think like even as a professor, when I'm talking to students, I'm thinking, oh, you guys have access to everything. You know about everything. And
Right.
no, 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 no. It's like they have access to their little corner of the internet and they're just immersed in that
Hmm.
or their corner of the algorithm or the app or whatever. And but so am I. So I can think I'm an omnivore and I'm consuming all this stuff, but it never ceases to amaze me where they'll tell me, oh, there's this thing on Paramount Plus, or there's this thing on Disney Plus, or there's this thing
Hmm.
on Amazon Prime. There's this thing on the fragmentation of the ecosystem has made it an interesting thing where I don't know if there's a such thing as like this top down fame that someone like Martin had, or even, I
Hmm.
think Drewski cuts through, but I'm wondering if this is like a sign that now, like, you know, networks now have to take the lead off of what the algorithm has already
Oh, that's
decided is
been
good.
happening. Yeah, the
Okay.
algorithm. There's a laziness. There's the network takes the cues from the algorithm. I think. And I think there's some pros and cons to that, right? Because there isn't, it's almost the same thing that happens with rappers where there's no artist development. Which, by the
hmm
way, I've been trying to get this camera to stop doing this moving thing. I've been clicking
Oh,
around and
oh, it's gonna
changing
follow you.
settings. Yeah, which is kind of cool, but it's making me dizzy. So let me change my screen
It's all up.
and put, I'm about to
Mine
mute.
does that too because I got this new iPad and I haven't changed the settings, and I think
I,
like it does that where it zooms
okay.
in and out, or it'll do different things if you ask it to.
Is doing yeah, it was distracting me, so I just moved my screen. So if you saw my settings changing, I was trying to figure out how to turn that off, but I couldn't. But I think that they're taking the cues from social media and cues from the culture instead of helping to drive culture.
hmm
Like I like the idea that there are no barriers to entry and there are no gatekeepers, etc. But you can't just blindly, and that you can't blindly just pick someone who has a couple million followers and say, "Oh, them, here it goes." And I think
Put
that
them
that was
in.
starting to happen with
Yeah.
some of these red carpet shows. You start to see like a lot of moments go viral for the wrong reasons for that, and that's why like when you have somebody who and that's a for your students. I don't know where they are, what career they're in, etc. But Drewski's career is a good example of your work and the content you create being your resume. That is your audition.
Mm.
So if he separated himself through the production quality of his skits,
Hmm.
you there's so much as a producer or as an executive who's hiring somebody to host this show, you can infer so much about him from the fact that he's done a reality series on his own YouTube channel called Could Have Been
Sure
Love.
has. Yeah.
So you understand how this works. Cool.
Hmm.
So if I needed to cast you or do anything with you, I can trust you with the production.
That's
Like
real.
there's a lot there, and so I think that a lot of networks weren't being as strategic in who they grab. They're only looking at follower count. But it's like, look at the skill set, look at what they're doing, look at how they're doing it,
Mm.
and see what that can tell you about the person. And so, I don't know if that answers your question. I got on topic a little bit,
Oh no,
but
it definitely hints at like what we call convergence, right? Is just I think I was thinking even as you were talking about like how even beyond award shows, you'll see certain things where I can tell like the casting director was just like so and so got a ton of followers. Let's insert them somewhere and
yeah, yep.
let them ad lib. Like I remember there was that Tyler Perry show that I want to believe was on Netflix, and they just what let's put. It's clear they were like Mojo Brooks has a following. Let's throw him in
Just throw them in there. Yeah,
somehow. Like let him be funny, let him ad lib, let him figure it out. But also it felt like, do you all actually know what he does, or is it just like I know he's popping, let's throw him in there? And I think
right.
there's instances where think now, to your point, they're starting to actually understand that like all cloud isn't created equal. We actually have to go see what it is that makes him the thing that he is, and then place him in the right context so that he can actually shine.
I'll give you a perfect example of this. I got on my super sleuthing. If you look on Drewski's recap carousel, there's a whiteboard in one of the carousels that's him in the planning the
Mm.
show. If you zoom in on the whiteboard, they have his franchises on there. It could have
Oh
been
wow,
records. It's church skit. It says on that whiteboard they planned out and mapped out what the segments are going to be.
wow,
And so you're exactly right. So even in the production of the thing, it's how can we lean into you? And a lot of times with award shows, the best writers, they try to figure out what is it that our talent has going on that we can lean into
right.
that can make this work. What jokes can we write? How can we do this?
Mm-hmm.
And there are other situations, like to your point, where it would be uh completely top down. Like you're just a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
Talent, social media talent, da da da, and they just give you jokes that don't have anything to do with you, don't have,
Right.
but Drewski's having already built his universe makes that easy.
Sure.
In the other room, I'll show it to you at some point too. I got like my binder from one of the VMAs I hosted, and so you'll see all of the segments and how these shows are playing. Like,
Wow.
maybe let me grab it. I think that might be ill. It might be something
I
good to
would.
show you. But I can still hear you, by the way, if you want to fire off
Oh
another
no.
question.
Oh yeah. No. One of the things I was thinking about is like black women and how they sort of a lot of the biggest moments were lit. Like yeah, it was culture's biggest night, but it felt like black women, whether it was Cardi B, whether it was Keke Palmer, or even the icons that showed up, Janet Jackson. You want to think about who was honored: Sylvia Rome, Tiana Taylor, Lauren
Yeah,
Hill.
yeah.
Like I was looking back on it, and I'm like, yeah, there was some moments where men were present, but like it seemed like the the actual engaging moments were
More
led
black
by
women.
black
Yeah.
women,
I
and
didn't even think about that.
I'm wondering what it means to sort of have black women anchor a night like that when, like I said, we're coming off the heels of having a black woman presidential candidate and like her getting completely shut down, or
Mm.
seeing what someone like Meg the Stallion goes through outside of a space like the BET Awards, but in a space like the BET Awards, someone like that can be celebrated and appreciated. But I guess I'm wondering what you thought or think about this idea that then Black women aren't given the opportunity to showcase themselves in the way that they get on a night like the BET Awards. And that sort of rang true because I found that, like, especially the Lauryn Hill stuff and Janet
Mhm.
Jackson and Tiana Taylor, I think those moments have showed up over and over and over in my algorithm, even though I hadn't
Yeah.
watched the award show in its entirety.
Yeah. Uh, I didn't even clock that. Like I was just like, oh man, all these black historical figures, da da da. I didn't even clock that it was all women. Like
A lot of women.
that's 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 really cool. I don't even know that it's so funny. Like this is I don't mean this to be a hot take. I'm trying to find a way to word it that obviously there are like the challenges that women face outside and black people face, but being women and black,
Hmm.
you're facing two things consistently. But I also feel like there's so much of culture, whether it's how many women MCs are running hip hop, whether it's
Yeah.
clock that, whether it's T is
Yeah.
lingo. There's so much, right? Like 90% of what is driving culture from the way folks speak to the jokes we tell, all of that, it's all black women. So
Mm.
it's almost hard for me culturally to still say that, like I think black women are on the uppermost tier of cultural relevance. They also
Hmm.
receive the most scrutiny, like
Yes.
Megan Thee Stallion as a case study or a Lizzo as a
Hmm.
case study. But Beyonce is the queen of music, period.
Mm.
Almost gender neutral ruler, monarch of
Yep.
music, period, in America. You know? So it's
Yeah.
like, it's it's hard to even, it's this weird dichotomy between this position of cultural power and leadership
Mm.
and marginalization in real life in other ways in other spaces.
That's
So
real.
it is powerful to see a Sylvia Rome be honored in that night all encompass like celebrating black women, but then I can only imagine what was Sylvia Rome's journey and how was she marginalized when she wasn't on center stage being honored for everything that she
Yeah.
endured to get where she
Yeah.
is. So, it's almost like, yeah, I'm seeing women get their just due now, but they lead culture in a way. But also, yeah, they lead in scrutiny. So it's interesting. Even the dialogue around spit that, you know what I'm saying? Like we joke around it and stuff. And people are like, oh, um, people are mad at the subject matter and they
Hmm.
made a big to do about what NDRE said about it. And not for nothing, men have been, I mean, C. Dolores Tucker was going in on rap music and
Hmm.
misogynist lyrics and black men and murder and drugs. Like, we have been talking about this. So it's not
Yeah.
unique to
No.
talk
No. No.
about
No. No.
to talk about this. Like the culture has been upset, but it does feel like uniquely it feel it some to some people I could see why it looks like punching down
Hmm.
because you have this moment where a Carisha um who could have descended into obscurity given all the challenges that Diddy had and
Yeah.
she's such a likable figure, like
Yeah.
people want her to win. So now that you have her winning and you're happy for her, this is the moment we decide to be
Right.
righteous about our messaging and music. Are you kidding me? So I understand what people are saying, but let's not forget that we chastise rappers and drill rappers
Oh
everybody
yeah.
all the time talks about the music. So it's almost equity for a woman rapper to be so big that now she can unabashedly be criticizing the same thing. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
this is what
So
we doing.
I don't know. I think that's gonna get parsed and picked apart without the full context of that thing. But
Yeah.
hopefully what I said makes a little sense.
No, man, it's real. I teach a hip hop class, and it's called Hip Hop Media and Society. But like, there's a week. I want to say it's like week eight
Mhm.
or week nine, where we talk about hip hop feminism. And Joan Morgan, she kind of coined that phrase in the '90s of hip hop feminism. But she was saying that she's an extension of. She has a lot of like poetic kind of moments in the essay, but she's really speaking about like he says something to the effect of what if patriarchy is attractive at times, or what if you know what I'm saying, chauvinistic lyrics in certain moments can excite me or thrill me or make me want to dance. does that mean that the academic side of me is negated? Am I not allowed
Mm.
to have the full spectrum of emotion? It's like it's that whole thing that hip hop does that it can be contradictory, where it's like you could say like you could say I love a scamming ass hood, drug dealing ass nigga, but then be, going to your corporate job or whatever. And
Yes.
it's an interesting, it's almost like a an oxymoron, but it's what black life, especially black culture
Black
and hip
life is
hop.
duality. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's always gonna be like these you know, I guess I don't want to make it too granular, but like having a second sight or a second vision or a second, uh, personality. You know what I mean? Where you're wearing a mask where you go operate in certain spaces. But then there's also like the respectability politics of being black, right? So like
Yeah.
you got young girls who are, or young women rather, who are in college and they're trying to get to where they're trying to go, but like best and believe on the weekend when they go into they parties and whatever, they're gonna be playing what feels good. And I think sometimes what feels good, may have a bit of misogyny in it sometimes. It may have, it's a diet, media diet, right? It's like the candy is what it is. It may feel good to eat the candy. It may feel good to eat the Big Mac at
Yeah.
times, or it may feel good to have some fries, but like you can't eat that every day. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
can't eat
Right.
that every meal. But
I
like,
think it was Tracy G from Sway's Universe that said posted a really good thread to the effect of like to love hip hop is to be hypocritical at times, and that's
for
okay. Like as
sure,
long as we all
for
acknowledge that,
sure,
and I think people underestimate and I would love for your students too, and for people who listen to hip hop because I feel like we're losing a lot of times, unless there's a rap battle, I think we've learned a lot of listeners are losing the ability to interpret lyrics and interpret double
mm,
entendres and stuff.
mm,
There is a switching that happens in the mind of most listeners too. Like when they say, "I love a scamming that," like when we talk about when we at work riding to Jay Z or you listening to drug music or something like that, or let's say somebody else like you
clips or whoever.
Clips or whoever, you kind of in your brain are substituting grinding for the work that you're
Hmm.
doing. When you say
Hmm.
scamming ass nigga or whatever, like it's like yeah, some mom is thinking about her husband because he's a man who gets it done. He's not a scammer. He's a guy who figures it
Yeah.
out,
Hmm.
finesses, and gets it done. Like
Hmm.
there's like this double entendre, this dual thinking that we have around things. Like I love reasonable doubt, like hustler mute, like that hustler mentality, that hustler music. Do I sell drugs? No. You know what I'm saying?
That's
But do
real.
I understand what people are talking about when you come from nothing, make a way out of nowhere, and you're figuring it out and you're able to
Yep.
finesse and finagle. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, do I feel like a scamming ass dude when I'm sneaking into the section of the awards show that I wasn't supposed to be at? Like, because I was
Yeah.
definitely in a
Yeah.
row I wasn't supposed to be at.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Like,
figure it out.
I'm gonna figure it out. So that, yeah. So when they talk about scamming ass niggas, that's how I did it. So I think when we listen to music in our culture, there are these this almost like a black exploitation type thing going on where we see ourselves in the criminals uh in a sanitized version of it sometimes.
I mean, do you think that this award show kind of did a good job in like educating? Because you're talking about like, I guess, generational gaps of even understanding culture, who came before you, who came after, who's coming after, who's next, and who's present. I think a lot of the reviews or recaps that I saw kind of pointed that out, that it was like a celebration of excellence across generations. Do you think that that helps to sort of bridge these information gaps that we were talking about, where it's like I have no idea who Martin Lawrence is, but I know who Castanat is, or
Right.
even if we think about that viral moment where Castanat runs into Wale on live stream and he's like, I have no
Yeah. I got
idea
idea that. Yeah,
who
yeah.
you are. Wale's like, man, without me, there's no you. And like, how are you on the cover of Billboard as like one of the most influential people in hip hop, and you don't know the sneakerhead, and you don't
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah. The blog
the
era guy. Like, what we
it's
talking about? And it was only like 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
yeah,
I do think that's important. Here's why it's important in a larger context, not just culture. If we have no respect for history here, then we have no respect for history anywhere. This is something that we enjoy and is light. So, how are we, if we can't understand who Queen Latifah is and all these different people,
yes,
will we now ignore when Trump, for the 250th American Independence anniversary, is now saying, "Yo, let's take out these moments where these monuments where George Washington had 9 slaves live with me." He's trying to remove
yeah,
history from remove that era of Black history. Like, we have to care about history, not only if we don't care about history with the fun stuff, we won't care about it with the serious stuff.
yeah,
Like, history matters, and we're inundated with information. Yet there's a dearth of knowledge at the same time. Like you said, you think people have access to everything, but they actually don't.
hmm
So when I think about it, I enjoyed. I think the show did well to show that history and that legacy because there's a multi-generational thing happening. When K1 is performing, I hear old heads in the audience like, "Who is that? I don't know who anybody is." And then
hmm
when Lauren is performing, they know the songs and stuff like that. "Oh, that's her. That's Lauren." Like, so you're hearing people like rediscover.
hmm
And so part of our collective history as Americans, but as Black people too, is our art. And we got to know where our art comes from, especially in the land of AI, where people are pilfering, taking
Oof,
little DNA from all of our. We need to be able to hear it. Like that.
yeah.
There's this song by uh, uh, Phoenix something. He got a song where it. What's the name of this song? It's called Rubbers.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I know
The
what you're talking
AI
about.
song. Yeah, I
Yes,
think it's
yes,
AI. It hasn't been
yes,
confirmed,
yeah.
but there's something familiar about it, which is what makes it catchy. But I can't remember the exact song from the vaudeville era or whatever it is that it's
Yes,
imitating, right?
yes.
We need to be able to identify the DNA within
Mm,
things because if we don't, the computers will steal our intellectual property, repackage it to us, and you won't even know they stole from you, you know?
real,
And we started to
for
see that
real.
happen. A lot of artists are saying, "Yo, I received a report that talked about the songs that Suno has used to train his models." And this
Yes.
dude said they used my whole catalog. It was so many artists that the stuff was taken. So we need to have this. We need to retain our own knowledge, or else all the computers are going to be creating our art, stealing it from us, feeding it back to us, and we're going to lose originality. So, yes, I think the war show
Yeah.
did well to show that because they didn't browbeat us. It was just natural. It was a tribute. It was this person. It was this person presenting. Then it was Janet Jackson tribute. So, like, there is this like, like Lauryn Hill was recognized at the Grammys. Of course, she should be recognized at BET Awards. Janet Jackson
Mhm.
was honored at the American Music Awards. Of course, she should be honored at the BET Awards, right?
Yep.
Like, and let's, of course, she should show up because there were
Mm,
years when people were not, A-listers were not showing up. How do we
yeah.
get them to come back? You know what I'm saying? Like, so these moments, they're important because they're a part of our history. Before we know it, generations won't know who James Brown is, which is a precursor to hip hop. Like, we have to know that.
Yeah. I guess my final question has more to deal with like BET as an
Mm-hmm.
institution. And you
Mm-hmm.
can say as much as you can or want to say about this, but like imagine that when Robert Johnson first started BET, it felt like almost like a barrier break where we have this place where Black people can convene. And if nothing else is on TV where we can see ourselves or hear our points of view, we can go to BET and get Donnie Simpson. We can go to BET and get Rap City and Tigger. We can go to BET
Yeah.
and get Ed Gordon. We can go to BET, get Joe Claire. We can go to BET and get whoever was on at that period in time. But even Teen Summit, I remember
Mm-hmm.
that being something where it was something for everybody. But now with the fragmentation of
Yeah.
media and, you know, the diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that have taken place, even,
Yeah.
in waves. I think in 2020 there was a resurgence of want for Black voices all over,
Yeah.
not just on network television, but cable television and all the streaming services. You
Yeah.
know, how is BET relevant in today's time? I think there was a point where people were saying there was an identity crisis with BET, where it's like all we're getting is like reruns and Tyler Perry shows. Like there's no actual culture. Whereas the BET Awards, I think, was the is the nexus of kind of where they can say, hey, we still drive what culture means to Black
Hmm.
folk. But what about those who would argue that, Black folks are on every network now? Is there actually a necessity for BET? What would you have to say to that?
Oh, we need BET as much as we need Telemundo. Like
Mm,
there's a cultural language that is
mm,
spoken. There's an inside joke that we have
mm,
amongst ourselves that we don't need to always in other channels. And as someone who's a Black host and apologetically Black on MTV,
for
so
sure.
many moments I had to explain. And sometimes you don't want to explain. You don't want to explain the
Mm,
joke. Sometimes you just want it to be there. You know what I mean? When Drewski comes out with the church skit, we don't need any further contextualization of what that is. We all saw it. We all remember. We all know what's going on. When he pretends to be the white rapper, which is funny because Belly Kush Gang, I actually saw him at Drewski's after party. He looked just like Belly. Uh, when he put that stuff on, we all kind of know what he means. And
mm,
so there needs just as much as we need, those shows or those networks in other languages, we need our language, right? So full
true.
stop. It's necessary. Um, Now, here's the challenge when you talk about the Ed Gordons and the Joe Claire's, like all of these folks and figures that has such rich storytelling in the heyday of BET. You'll
Hmm.
see online people say we need to bring BET News back. We need to bring
Yeah.
it was back for 3 seasons of America in Black. There was a news magazine show.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
had 2 segments on it. A lot of prominent people on there. It People don't watch what they say they want.
Mm.
People don't engage. You know why Baby Boy ran? And it's not me just protecting it. I don't even work for Paramount as a full-time employee anymore. But let's be real. Ridiculousness runs on MTV because people watch it.
Yeah.
Baby Boy and Tyler Perry, all of those things run on that channel incessantly because when you flipping through, for whatever reason, people end up watching it.
Yeah.
We don't watch as much smart content as we say we. If we loved, if we were tired of pussy rap,
Mm.
um, Rhapsody would be platinum. It's the same thing
Mm.
that Kendrick said. We was like, if y'all love, then Killer Mike would be platinum. It's so we say we're tired of it, but we don't Google and look up Samara Sin. We don't look up
Yeah.
rap. We
Yeah.
don't look up Che Noir. We don't look up No Name. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a million
Hmm.
of them. And similarly, I think the same thing happens with BET, where we want edified storytelling. You go on the BET news page. It's still there. Go on the BET's social.
Wow.
Like all of it is there. It's not being pumped in our algorithm, so we could blame the algorithm. But the
Yeah.
algorithm responds to some degree to human behavior.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't want positivity as much as we say we do. We don't. You know what I'm saying? We saw so many positive things on the internet, and guess what we commented on? NDRE and spin that. Not you and I, but I'm
Fair.
saying the culture. And
No, no, it's
so
real
yeah.
though. It's
So
real
it's
though.
not, it's all cap. I think we need to sometimes put the medicine in the candy and browbeat positivity
Hmm.
into the culture because it's hard to make people take the medicine. Now we do have figures that do go viral for their takes or their knowledge, Joshua Das or Deontay
Yeah.
Kyle, all these folks who, give messages of, black empowerment that still resonate.
Hmm.
Right. So how do we factor those people into programming that
There we go.
elevates us? That's the question, right? Also, a question of Dame Dash actually had this conversation with. BT president Louis Carr, the
Mm-hmm.
BT experience. He was like, "Y'all not black owned," and he was like, "But we do service to
Mm,
black people." He was like, "Yeah, but you're not black owned. What does
mm.
it even mean? What do you own?" And it's it's a real it's a truth because now you don't have voting messaging. I bet if it was black owned, we would have had
You
some.
could do it.
You
Yeah.
could do it. Our voting rights are being tampered with all over states in the South. Like Supreme Court decisions are overturning so much progress, and not
Mm.
one mention of it because we're not black owned. Like that's the problem with it, right? We are constantly we over index as consumers and under index as owners and proprietors of the information we're consuming. And there becomes this loop of if you want to be in the ecosystem, and I deal with it as a creator. There's some
Yeah.
edifying storytelling I would like to tell. My most viral clip is me asking two women would they let Usher and Chris Brown give them a lap dance on stage.
Or
I, as my clip teaching journalism at the Obama Library didn't do what that did. So like
right.
and so
Yeah.
there is something. There are ways that we have to hold ourselves to account because trust me, if the positivity performed, it would be
Mm,
invested in because we saw that with 2020.
mm.
You know what I'm saying? And now,
Yeah.
like, white folks, came together and then quelled DEI. But when there was an uptick in interest in socially conscious content. We
Oh
saw what that
yeah.
looked like. It
Yeah.
yielded movies. It gave us Sinners. It gave us Wakanda. Like it's all of these things. So that's my long way of saying, before I point the finger at BET solely because it is a corporation doing corporations do, which is responding to consumers.
Yeah.
Consumers, we need to engage with the positive content that we claim we want to see. And
Yeah.
once they see, let's make, Samara Center Star. Like, let's make, you
She's
know,
cold. She's
she
cold.
cool. We made Doechii a star. And sometimes it gets eclipsed by the fact that she's naked a lot on stage.
Yeah.
But she's very smart and I don't know if she's choosing to do that or not. And that's her prerogative. But
Hmm.
yeah, like let's edify and figure that out. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. That's my
No, no. To your point, like a lot of the stuff that it's weird. I see a lot of the stuff happening more largely in society and even in culture happening in academia as well. Like I just left a conference where, I'm talking to, black grad students and they're telling me like there's no job. And they're like, well, what did you do to apply? And I was like, well, been to finish my dissertation right around 2020, which is when
yeah.
we're in the midst of Black Lives Matter and the murder of George Floyd. And to your point, there was a reaction by universities and colleges to say we need more scholars of color to talk about this perspective, or we need researchers that
Yeah.
go into these communities and have familiarity with these communities. I mean, even to the point where the job call would say, we want people who study race. We would prefer to have some, and that was code for we want black scholars here.
Well, Black
And
scholars here.
and that sort of shifted, that has
Yep.
shifted where and I was letting those individuals know that like, hey, I can give you my job materials. I can even forward you contact information of people at different universities that are hiring. But I can tell you that the landscape is not the same, right?
Landscape has changed. Yeah.
Literally in my job interview gave a talk on Chief Keef that I don't know I could have given in now and gotten
Yeah.
hired.
Right.
um, that's not to say I wouldn't do it, but there's no way of knowing if that would work, right? And so I think
Yeah.
the way you sort of framed how media industries are very reactionary, I think,
Mm.
the microcosm of society as a whole.
Facts. Facts.
But What they don't know is we hopefully have a project coming up soon that will merge some of the things that we
Yes.
talked about today. And I won't get into that, but I just will hope that people stay tuned because there are people and voices who are trying to preserve these things that we are talking about. Um, and I thank you for your time, man, because I know you're a busy brother, and
No,
I'm
thank you.
sure folk in New York trying to be outside for the colonizers' holiday, but
I
like,
am not even selling. It's too hot. It's 103 degrees outside right now. Negative. But nah, thank you, brother.
yeah, man, and get the AC working, man. We don't need you
Right, right.
rotisserie chicken.
Boy, what? That's exactly how I feel right now. Oh, I did want to show you this one thing next time when I get on. 'Cause I've never had a chance to show this to a class. So this was the
Wow.
VMAs pre-show, and I think it's dope to see how much goes into every
Yeesh.
segment, every interview,
Yeesh.
every sponsored moment, and what that looks like when you're putting together these award shows and figuring out these commercial breaks and this and that. And I think that like I
Playbook.
think yeah, it's the whole playbook. And so, when we talk about structure and how these things come together, and production and what creators can do themselves, having these little blueprints like when I watched Drewski's production, that's what I was thinking about. That's what made me bring it up.
Mm,
I'm like, oh, he understands this
yeah.
because it takes this to make that happen. So, anyway, next time we chat, though, I want to, show some stuff that I never saw when I was a student. You know what I'm saying? So,
Man, that's dope, man.
but
Like I
yeah,
said, man, I appreciate you, brother, and stay safe out there, and we will be in touch, bro.
thank you, my G. I appreciate you, knowledge.
IG.
All right.
Peace.